decide if a GitHub project is good? Star ratings, forks, documentation quality, commit frequency, or maybe how recent the last commit was? Many of us trust those glittering stars to guide us, but what if millions of those stars were fake? Today, we're diving into research that exposes a startling truth. Up to 4.5 million GitHub stars might be fraudulent. This paper uncovers fake stars, their patterns, and the shady market behind them, revealing their impact on rankings and trust in open source.
Let's start with a critical issue in the world of open source software: fake stars on GitHub. These stars are often treated like a popularity signal, guiding people to repositories that appear to be high quality. But there's growing worry about star counts getting artificially inflated, what we're calling fake stars. Sometimes they're bought to boost visibility. Other times, they're used to manipulate growth or spread malware. The big problem is that fake stars undermine the reliability of GitHub star counts as a quality signal. In response, the researchers behind this paper developed StarScout, a tool that systematically detects fake stars across GitHub. They looked at patterns like low activity and synchronized starring. Their findings are alarming. Fake star activities have skyrocketed, with many star-giving users showing very suspicious behavior. This raises serious security concerns for everyone relying on open-source software. Previous research touched on this issue, but the work here goes deeper, taking a global, long-term look to reveal the real scale of the problem. As you read on, keep in mind that GitHub stars, while widely used to gauge popularity, are really just signals of attention, not necessarily proof of quality or utility. One of the big dangers is that stars can be purchased. Try searching "buy GitHub stars," and you'll see numerous services selling them, sometimes just for a few cents per star, often delivered very quickly. This leads to major risks for anyone who depends on star counts for decision-making. Detecting fake stars is challenging because attackers have many methods. Some use bots, others use crowdsourced farms, and GitHub itself is massive, with years of events recorded. Also, deleted data complicates everything. The author's tool, StarScout, tackles these issues by hunting for suspicious patterns in user behavior, such as minimal account activity and coordinated starring. StarScout processes huge amounts of data, spotting signals like low-activity users who star in bursts and groups of users acting in sync. It's all about revealing the hidden manipulation behind star counts. Now let's dig into some of their key findings. They discovered that repositories targeted by fake star campaigns often include phishing scams. Think of malware disguised as pirating tools or cryptocurrency bots. Others could be harmless, although it's not always clear if they're real projects or shady scams. Looking at the accounts giving these fake stars, many have default avatars and empty profiles. They show weird behaviors, such as starring projects without any real engagement. Over 60% of these accounts cluster together in a highly artificial way, suggesting they're part of coordinated efforts. Interestingly, the data suggests that fake stars give a small boost in real attention during the first couple of months. But after that, the impact turns negative, likely because people realize something's off. This has real security implications. Fake stars deepen concerns about the growing threats in the open-source software supply chain, emphasizing the urgent need for detection methods and better defenses. Here, the study presents more concrete evidence. The authors applied StarScout to over 5 years of GitHub data. They uncovered more than 1 million fake stars, involving thousands of repositories in these star-boosting schemes. The biggest spike was in July 2024, when nearly 16% of repositories with 50 or more stars showed signs of fakery. However, most of these repositories saw little adoption or influence in larger package ecosystems like NPM or PyPy. They focus on several research questions, such as how widespread fake stars are, what characteristics define them, and their overall impact. They also note their 2 main contributions: the creation of StarScout, a scalable detection tool, and the measurement study itself, which offers insights into the reality of fake stars. These findings are valuable for everyone: platform moderators, developers, and security researchers who want a safer GitHub environment. Let's look at some broader context. Fraud on online social networks generally involves fake accounts pushing spam, malware, or misinformation. Researchers have studied how these fakes inflate popularity, whether that's through likes or follows, to boost their visibility. Attackers use bots, but they can also employ real people paid to generate fake engagement. Detecting these strategies is tough, because attackers keep evolving to avoid detection. In GitHub, a star works somewhat like a like on social media. It was meant to be a simple thumbs up for a repository, but it can also be twisted to promote malicious projects, trick users, or create an illusion of credibility. This means stars could be a tool for software supply chain attacks, a type of attack that can have serious consequences. The study here shines a light on how dangerous these manipulations could be. Modern software heavily relies on open-source components from places like GitHub, but these components can be targeted by supply chain attacks. For instance, an attacker might slip malware into a popular library, affecting all downstream users. Fake GitHub stars feed into a black market where stars are bought, sold, or exchanged. You'll find services offering these stars on websites, messenger apps, or even e-commerce platforms. Some people also form star exchange groups or reward users for starring their repos. All these activities violate GitHub's acceptable use policies, which prohibit fake accounts and automated interactions. Beyond breaking the rules, these activities threaten the wider software ecosystem and trust in open-source software. Purchased, exchanged, or otherwise incentivized stars are considered fake, since they aren't genuine endorsements of a repository. Past work found thousands of fake accounts involved in these star campaigns, but never closely examined the repositories themselves. Often, these fake stars are part of growth hacking strategies. For example, startups wanting to look more impressive, or job seekers wanting to polish their GitHub profiles. Now look at Figure 2 here. It gives you a high-level view of how StarScout detects fake stars. Two main patterns stand out. First, there's low activity signature. Accounts that have very little engagement, but then suddenly star a bunch of repositories. Second, there's lockstep signature. Groups of accounts starring the same repositories at the same time in coordinated bursts. These patterns show how attackers typically game the system. But there's also some risk of flagging legitimate users if they happen to star in similar ways. That's why StarScout includes extra checks after this initial detection. StarScout uses those two main detection strategies, low activity and lockstep, to highlight possible cases of fake GitHub stars. Low activity focuses on accounts that only star once or twice and then go quiet. To cut down on false alarms, StarScout keeps an eye on repositories with at least 50 questionable stars, reflecting how commercial star services usually sell them in batches. Meanwhile, the lockstep signature uses a graph-based algorithm to spot clusters of accounts that star multiple repositories in very tight timeframes. They look for patterns of synchronization that normal users rarely show. The balance is tricky. They want to catch as many fake stars as possible without flagging genuine behavior. To handle the huge amount of GitHub data, StarScout uses advanced algorithms and a scalable setup. It processes GHArchive data, scanning for weird spikes in star behavior using SQL queries and Python scripts. An existing algorithm called copycatch, originally used by Facebook to find coordinated activity in massive graphs, was adapted for this task. By splitting the user repository graph into 6-month chunks, they made the system run faster and more efficiently. Check out how they analyzed a popular repository over time. Fake stars were sprinkled across several months. They barely changed the monthly star counts, but they still existed in the data. By July 2024, StarScout had looked at 5 full years of data and found over 4.5 million suspicious stars, along with thousands of star manipulation campaigns. That's a big number for a platform many trust for open-source collaboration. After finding these suspicious stars, StarScout narrows down the list further. It looks at repositories with clearly abnormal surges in fake stars, such as those where over half the stars in a certain month seem fake, and where fake stars remain more than 10% of total stars. These conditions focus on deliberate manipulation, rather than a random user or two. Evaluating a detection system like this can be tricky. Traditional honeypot methods, where you pay for fake stars to watch them in action, raise ethical issues. Instead, the study checks how often flagged repositories match known malicious behaviors, and how unusual they look compared to normal GitHub projects. Moving on. Take a look at the table here comparing suspicious repositories and accounts flagged by StarScout against a random baseline of normal GitHub repositories. You'll notice that these suspicious repositories are deleted much more often, especially after the post-processing step, indicating they likely violated GitHub rules. Two charts then compare the average number of events per repository. The suspicious ones show heavy starring activity but very little else, like issues or pull requests. There's a similar story for the user accounts involved. They star repositories but don't do much else, like forking or commenting. This concentration on starring alone adds to the evidence that these accounts and repositories aren't regular participants in the GitHub community. Next, the discussion digs deeper into what sets these flagged repositories and users apart from typical ones. We see that the flagged ones have a way higher deletion rate, more than 90% for repositories, while the baseline shows under 6%. That's a stark difference and points to suspicious behavior. When you look at their actual actions, it's mostly starring and little to no coding or community interaction. The authors also provide some visuals, revealing how these flagged entities form distinct clusters, separate from the normal GitHub crowd. Everything reinforces the idea that these patterns likely stem from fraudulent campaigns rather than genuine usage. Now, this part shows TSNE, also known as T-Distributed Stochastic Neighbor Embedding, visualizations that compare flagged repositories and user accounts to random samples. Repositories clearly form separate groups, but user accounts are more tangled in with legitimate ones, maybe because some real users occasionally show minimal activity that partially overlaps with suspicious patterns. Then we move to the ethical considerations. Fake stars break GitHub's policies and can support malicious projects, yet studying them isn't simple. The authors point out that even if the system has a 90% precision rate, there's still a chance of wrongly labeling someone as suspicious. To reduce harm, they present aggregate trends instead of naming and shaming specific projects. This responsible approach helps ensure that innocent developers aren't unfairly cast under suspicion. In this section, we also hear about the limitations of their evaluation procedure. They might miss some advanced or emerging forms of star manipulation. Plus, it's unclear how well their findings generalize beyond the dataset they analyzed. Ethical issues pop up if researchers try to confirm their findings by paying for fake stars themselves. That inadvertently finances bad actors, so they avoid that method. Finally, they introduce their first research question about how widespread fake stars really are. The approach is to compare flagged repositories and accounts to a broader baseline, giving a sense of just how big this phenomenon might be. Continuing on, we see a closer look at the prevalence of these fake star campaigns. Tables and figures show the volume of repositories and users engaged in such campaigns. Compared to all active GitHub users, it's a small fraction. But there are some time periods with noticeable spikes. One table even breaks down how these suspicious repositories connect to other software registries, such as NPM and PyPy. Metrics like downloads and dependence are considered to see how these fake-starred repositories might, or might not, affect the wider ecosystem. These details help us quantify the effect of fake star campaigns on both repository activity and the larger software community. It's not always about pure numbers. Sometimes a small group can create outsized distortions. The main takeaway is that fraudulent starring has been steadily rising since 2022, hitting a big peak in 2024. By July 2024, over 3,000 repositories and 30,000 users were involved. That might seem small when looking at GitHub's entire population, but it does twist popularity signals. For instance, just 50 stars can sometimes get a repository on a trending list, so fake stars can significantly boost visibility. However, when these repositories were traced to NPM or PyPy, they didn't see much actual adoption. So the threat is mostly about misleading popularity, plus the direct security risks that come if these repositories harbor malware. It's not about wide-scale dependency infiltration. At least, not yet. Turning to the characteristics of these repositories and accounts, the paper shows word clouds that highlight common names like bots, cracks, and auto-clickers. These terms often hint at shady or questionable content. Tables reveal that fake star accounts typically have default profile pics, no linked organizations, and no websites, making them harder to identify or trace. Some of the fake-starred repositories still on GitHub turn out to be spam or malware, Tools like VirusTotal confirm this. Others use random terms, suggesting they might be legitimate but artificially boosted for marketing. It's a mix, but the pattern is clear. A lot of these are short-lived or questionable, which points to some level of deliberate manipulation. Most repositories in these campaigns don't stick around for long. Many disappear after just a few days. If you compare deleted repositories to those still live, the deleted ones tend to have even higher proportions of fake stars. That implies GitHub, or someone, is taking them down. Unfortunately, we can't analyze deleted content, because it's simply gone from the platform. For repositories still up, we see a lot of references to pirated software, cryptocurrency bots, and game cheats. Meanwhile, the accounts giving these stars often have default avatars, no affiliations, and no websites, making them pretty anonymous. However, the study finds that just looking at someone's profile picture or personal info isn't enough to conclusively say they're a part of a fake star campaign. Focusing on how fake star accounts behave, the authors group these accounts into clusters based on their activity patterns. One big group barely does anything besides starring repositories. Around 60% of these suspicious accounts show trivial levels of engagement overall. This ties back to the idea of growth hacking. People assume that more stars makes a project look more credible, which might attract real users, investors, or collaborators. Some campaigns are short-lived and revolve around spam, but others may stretch on longer for strategic reasons. A natural question arises: do fake stars actually convince real users to hop on board? That's the big question. Let's see how the authors try to figure that out next. Digging further into the clusters, they're mostly about accounts that either only star or star plus fork. Yet across two of the largest clusters, more than 70% of accounts end up deleted. The team also raises the idea that success begets success. When a repository gains legitimate stars, it often picks up even more, thanks to social proof. Could the same be true when it's fed by fake stars, since casual viewers can't easily tell genuine stars from fake ones? To investigate, the authors use a special time-based statistical method. They want to see whether fake stars actually lead to an uptick in real stars further down the road. This part explains how they measure the effect of fake stars using an advanced statistical model. The model looks at many variables: how many fake and real stars a repo already has, how old the repo is, how frequently releases occur, and overall GitHub activity. They incorporate both fixed effects, factors that remain constant for each repository, and random effects, which vary. By doing this, they try to isolate the impact of fake stars from other influences. They present statistical metrics showing how well each model fits the data. The findings suggest fake stars might play some role in attracting real stars in the short run. But the authors note that more research is needed to confirm causation. Different models show similar patterns, suggesting a limited but noticeable effect. Drilling into the results of these autoregressive models, we learn that real stars have a strong and sustained impact on future real stars. Put simply, once a repository starts gaining legit traction, it often keeps growing. But fake stars aren't so lucky. They may give a brief bump, but that effect fades quickly. Over time, a history of obviously fake stars can even hurt a repository's reputation. The authors point out they can't decisively prove causality. There's also a limit to how long the dataset spans. Still, the message is clear. Relying on fake stars might bring a short flash of popularity, but it does little good long-term and could backfire. Next, the paper talks about how the team reported malicious repositories to GitHub. After the July 2024 scan, they passed on their findings, and GitHub took disciplinary actions. By the time they did a second scan in November 2024, they chose not to submit more reports right away. They wanted to avoid false positives until they could validate with non-public GitHub data. They also partnered with a supply chain security firm to roll out a minimal intervention. They published a blog post summarizing their discoveries and integrated alerts into security products. So if you're a user of certain tools, you might now get warnings about open source components that appear in these fake star lists. It's a proactive way to keep developers informed. Here, the authors step back and consider the bigger picture. Fake star campaigns have exploded, warping GitHub's star system. That means star counts can't always be trusted, especially if you're basing security or quality judgments on them. The study finds that besides inflating popularity, fake stars can also pose security risks. They can push sketchy or harmful code higher in search results or trending pages. One upside is that it's possible to detect fake stars using publicly available data. The authors provide practical tips, advising open-source users not to rely too heavily on star counts. Instead, combine various signals, like recent commits, user engagement, or security metrics, before making important decisions. It's all about looking beyond a single number. At this point, the study stresses the dangers of focusing solely on GitHub star counts. Doing so may cause you to overestimate a repository's quality, making you more vulnerable to security threats. They suggest looking at multiple data points, like how active the development is and whether there are any security advisories. They also warn people not to try growth hacking with fake stars. The data shows it usually doesn't pay off in real traction and can harm trust in your repository over time. They also note that while they haven't seen direct social engineering attacks relying on fake stars, the risk is there. The rising sophistication of supply chain threats means ongoing monitoring is crucial. The authors point out that GitHub's star metric, in its current form, treats all starring events equally, making it easy for fakes to distort popularity signals. They propose a weighted approach that factors in user reputation or network position, giving more meaningful insight into a repository's standing. They also highlight that many repositories with fake stars remain on GitHub and continue operating, suggesting the need for stronger moderation. Finally, they call for ongoing vigilance, both from GitHub itself and the broader community. They recommend developing new tools and metrics to guard open-source platforms from fraud and spam. It's clear there's still a lot of work to do. Looking ahead, the authors encourage the research community to keep exploring. Potential directions include building better techniques for spotting fake stars, digging deeper into the social network aspect of GitHub accounts, and investigating similar fraudulent behaviors on other platforms. They're also making StarScout's source code and data openly available, hosting it on GitHub for anyone to use or improve. Plus, they plan to archive this dataset permanently, so other researchers can continue to study and refine detection methods. This openness is essential for tackling digital threats together. Collaboration is key if we want to keep the open-source landscape safe and trustworthy. If you want to dig deeper, the authors have shared their tool and data, so feel free to explore further. Remember, staying informed is the first step toward a safer, more secure development community. Keep building, keep collaborating, and stay vigilant out there.